Getting right to it for Article 2 here on April 30th. The learning goal for today is to determine two or more central ideas of a text and analyze their development over the course of that text, including how they interact and build on one another. The scale should look familiar. A 4 means that you can identify the central idea or ideas and the evidence that the author uses to prove his or her point, as well as how the ideas build on one another. A 3 means that you can identify the central idea or ideas and the evidence that the author uses to prove his or her point. A 2 means that you can identify the central idea, but you're not really showing that evidence. A 1 means that you are unsure of how to find the central idea. To receive a unit and a half for today's class, you must highlight or underline the main idea, circle the evidence that the author uses to prove his or her point, and box any other central ideas in the text. The 4 skills that we will be working on today is to identify the topic. Remember that the topic is different than the main idea. To summarize the story in 10 to 12 words. To identify the first and last sentences, because typically the first is used to introduce the main idea of the article and the last is used to recap the main idea. And if you're seeing any repetition, those repeated ideas are generally important. The author wouldn't repeat those things if they did not feel that way. Today's article is titled, "Are You Texters or Yellers? Many Families Turn to Texting at Home to Talk." Written for the USA Today on 4/29, so just yesterday in fact. It's time for homework or to summon the troops for dinner. Sure, you could holler upstairs, but that seems so last century. You save your voice and text them instead. And let's be honest, it's not just the kids we are texting, we're also texting each other at home. So is texting under one roof becoming the modern-day equivalent of the dinner bell or intercom? Or is it yet another example of our obsession with technology taking the place of face-to-face communications? The mere act of texting one another in the same house may be built on the assumption that your kid is already glued to the screen on the other end, quite likely on Instagram or playing a game, rather than reading or studying for the next day's exam. Does that mean you are unwittingly condoning their dependence on such a device by communicating this way? Many parents who exchanged messages with the USA Today are perfectly cool with same-home texting, or even the odd phone call that requires only a quick answer to a casual question, or that reminds the kids that food is on the table and that it's time to do the household chores. For that matter, though, your son or daughter is just as likely to text first, "Dad, can you approve my app request?" Texting instead of yelling. "This is 2019. We use technology rather than yelling at our house," says Michigan nurse Wendy Anton, who only texts with the family at home, but communicates with them, who not only texts with the family at home, but communicates with them via Amazon Alexa. And Anton says, "The adults will also text each other for the same reasons, even if we want to say things we don't want the kids to hear." Yelling, in fact, may have negative consequences, says Pamela Rutledge, director of the Media Psychology Research Center at Newport Beach, California. "It's an aggressive act and loses all the subtleties of regular voice without the benefit of adding an emoji for clarification," she says. "Humans react instinctively to certain behaviors, and yelling creates a defensive reaction until decoded. If mom yells, 'Come down here, please,' it's hard to know if you're in trouble or if she just needs to tell you something that yelling can't accomplish. If, like most houses, there is no response to the first yell, then the next yell loses the please and reflects the annoyance of being ignored." But Pittsburgh psychologist Dr. Nancy Moore says we often turn to technology as an avoidance technique when we think we're in hot water. "It doesn't even have to be a teenager who's going to get in trouble," she says, but rather anybody who wants to communicate with somebody who wants to avoid a long conversation. Avoiding embarrassment. Though we may message family members as a nudge or as a random touch point, texting in the house is often a prelude to a deeper conversation. Sometimes I am okay with it, especially if it's something that they are embarrassed to say face to face, says Tamara Forsman, a mother of 3 in Washington State. "I will let them text. Then they come see me so we can talk. I try to balance our communicating in their way, text, and my way, conversation, because I realize that relationships are give and take. I guess I feel that communication is so important, especially in the teen years. I am thankful for a text because a lot of teens would never text their mom, so I take the win." Houston mom Kelly Jones Geiger echoes those thoughts. Geiger says she resisted texting at home with her teenage daughter for a long time, but now the two sometimes text even when they're sitting next to each other on the couch. At 14, some things are hard to talk about face to face with mom about. I meet her at her level, and we're able to come together. I have the chance to edit my words before blurting them out. It opens up lines of communication for both of us. In Fort Worth, Kara Gunya has a similar experience with a 12-year-old son who has a more difficult time talking to her than his sister, who is a year older. There have been quite a few times that he has texted me letting me know that someone said something inappropriate or that he was watching something and an inappropriate commercial came up before he realized what was going on, things like that. Then, when the time is right, I'll bring it up and he's really comfortable talking. I can always tell that he's just waiting to talk to me about it. It's really sweet. Kids may also see it that way. In Chandler, Arizona, Amy Wing's 12-year-old daughter, Erin, explains to her mother why she texts her. I text you when there's something difficult for me to talk about straight to your face, or if I'm tired or doing something, or if I'm with friends, I don't want to go out and talk to you. If you call me to come talk to you, I'll go. But if I need something and it doesn't have to be straight away, I'll text you. To be sure, some parents remain dead set against the practice. Katie May, a mother of 6, forbids texting in the house in favor of forcing human interaction at all costs. The effects of texting at home. So, are we actually creating lasting psychological effects by opting for convenient screen contact over making eye contact? What has happened in our society is we don't exist separate from our devices anymore because we've learned to do so many things dependently on our device, says Moore. One of the things that's happening with technology, which is very unfortunate, is people are responding with brevity as opposed to really talking something through. Social interaction is not learned. Reading of body language is not learned. Social skill in navigating a conversation is not learned. But Rutledge says, we have this illusion that before cell phones, children would happily come downstairs for meaningful FaceTime. Not so. If I had a dime for every time I had to yell back up the stairs to some query, I can't understand what you're saying. Please come down if you want to talk to me. I'd be a very rich woman. However, Rutledge sees another positive to texting. My kids send me pictures of their cats. That's nice because what's really telling you is that they're thinking about you. It's really not about the cat. Well, mostly. What we don't talk about is those silly things that make us feel more connected. So here we are back at the worksheet. And you know what I think? I think you know what to do. Ciao for now.